Y'all. Piffin, I'm in the building. Sesame in the building. Pour out the bubbles, we holding our liquor down. If it's a problem, I'll go to the bar and I shut it down. Get out my section, don't bother with lames. I'm watching these bunnies bounce. Shorty a 10, the rubber band, come on for the 100 pound. All of the talk, but don't run a mouth. I'm trying to be out.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Hey man, today man, I want to talk about three tips that I want to recommend for everybody to attempt, man, because hey, listen, I'm all about making sure that everybody's reaching to their fullest potential. That's what I'm all about. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to reach my full potential in what I'm trying to do here on this planet. But at the same time, I'm trying to share some best practices and tips along the way to make sure that I can help somebody else on the other side of this camera. So I'm going to share with you three tips that I think are going to be helpful for you in 2022, man, because hey, 2022 is around the corner. It's around the corner. In less than 3 weeks, we're going to be in 2022, man. That's crazy. But anyhow, if y'all ready, let's get it.
I take you and you, and you and you, and you, and you and you, and you too, and you and you. Let's go. When this money we party.
All right, y'all. So, tip number one. This is a very, very powerful tip, right? But tip number one is, let me sit down here. Tip number one is really just changing your mindset, right? Changing your mindset and the way that you look at things, right? Like if you've been approaching a particular situation or you've had a problem for a very long time and nothing changes, then you better start looking inward. You gotta start looking inside of you. Like maybe I'm the one that needs to change. So like changing the way that you go about things, changing the way that you view things is a huge thing. It's like a mind shift that you need to have in order for you to be able to make progress. Because if you've been doing something for a very long time and nothing has changed, like, you know, what's the common denominator, right? You can continue to wait for other people to change. You can continue to wait for situations to change. But if you don't change, you're gonna find yourself in the same situations 5-10 years from now. So it's like, all right, so what is it that needs to happen here? Because I want to make progress, right? I want to make sure that I move forward. But the only way that that's going to happen is if you work on yourself, right? So like tip number one is that. Tip number one is just making sure that you change your mindset. Change your mindset about how you view things. Change your mindset about how you view, you know, your life, your finances, your relationships, you know, your friendships. Change your mindset about all of that stuff, right? Because if you don't, things won't change, right? Things will change externally. There's a lot of things that are going to change, but maybe they're not going to change towards the things that you want them to be. So if nothing is changing in your life and you want things to change, you got to make sure that you are changing your mindset and the way that you're looking at things. So that's tip number one.
So you want to go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay.
All right, so tip number two, and this is gonna sound like super obvious, but sometimes, you know, the answer's right in front of us and we can't even see it. But tip number two is get knowledge, get informed. Right? If there's something that you're trying to do that you might be apprehensive about, you might be apprehensive because you don't know the information. You don't know how to go about it. Right? It may be finances. It may be, you know, how do I do, I don't know. I don't even know, like finances or having a difficult conversation. Like, how are you going to know if you don't get informed? Right? Like for me, I can give you my example. Like for a very long time, I had issues with, what's out of here? I had issues with, you know, I've always been this guy that I'm always trying to get to the next level. And finances is one thing that for me, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because there's so much information out there, misinformation and information out there. But the only way that you can make an informed decision is by getting knowledge, by getting informed about what it is that you're trying to do. So for me, you know, I've been over time, I've been always trying to find out, like, all right, so how do I do this? Or how do I do that? So how do I invest? How do I save my money? How do I put my money to work for me because it's what I want to do. Like it's the way that I know that other successful people that have achieved a certain level of success have achieved their success is by doing certain specific things. And then when you look at people that have done it, like in history, right, they've all done the same thing. So that means that it works. So for me to do it, I just have to make sure that I understand what it is that I'm getting into, so that that way I can minimize my risk when I go in, right? Because a lot of times we don't do something is because we're fearful. And I've talked about that before in a separate video, how fear sometimes holds us back. But the way that you can minimize the risk and minimize, say, like the fear or the mental blocks that we might have is by just making sure that we get informed and we get knowledge. Because when you have knowledge, then you can make better informed decisions. So like if you want things to change already, number one is making sure that you change your mindset about the things that you're doing. But then tip number two, to make sure that 2022 we can get it, right? We get a good year in 2022, is making sure that we get the information and the knowledge that we need in order to achieve the things that we want to do, right? So if you're trying to do something new this year, try to get as much information as possible. Read up on it, right? You look up some YouTube videos about it, right? Get informed, get the information you need, so that way when you go ahead and you start that journey or that process or whatever that may be, then you're going to feel a lot more comfortable in making sure that you go ahead and you make that transition of that journey.
The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the.
Alright, y'all, so the last tip that I got for you guys today, and this is kind of like the cherry in the top, right? This is the cherry in the top, man. You got to be able to make a decision in 2022. Like, what is it going to be? What are you going to do, right? Because when this year started, you said you were going to do some things, and probably you started, probably started dabbling in it. But then by February, you were like, nah, that ain't working. I'm not doing anything, right? And by March, you absolutely were not doing anything. So now we're in December and you're looking back at your life and you're looking back at what happened this year in 2021. And it's like, man, my life ain't changing. Your life ain't going to change, man. Your life ain't going to change until you start making decisions about what it is that you're trying to do. Because guess what? If you don't make decisions, somebody else is going to make decisions for you. So if you want to be able to have control over your life, if you want to be able to have control over your destiny and what's going to happen for you and your family and your loved ones over the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, the amount of time that God gives you to be on this planet, you got to make a decision about what it is that you're trying to do, right? So if you're trying to be healthy, if you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle, then you got to make a decision about that. If you want to better your finances, then you got to be able to make a decision about that in terms of what it is that you're trying to do, right? Because if you don't make a decision, again, somebody else is going to make that decision for you. And it may not be something that you're looking forward to, right? When somebody else makes decisions about what we're going to do or we're not going to do, right? It's not fun. But when you're making decisions and you're in control, then at least you feel good about yourself, and you feel even though you might your progress might be very slow and very incrementally, but slow, over time you're going to feel so much better because you're in control. You're in control of what you want to do. You're in control of where you want to be and where you want to get to. So making a decision is kind of like the cherry on the top for 2022. This is the year. This is the year that you have to be able to make a decision in terms of what you want to do, in terms of what you want to achieve, in terms of where you want to be and what's the legacy that you're trying to live, right? Because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and things don't change, again, it goes back to tip number one, right? It goes back to tip number one. You got to change your mindset. You have to be able to change your mindset. Because once you change your mindset, right, you're going to look at things differently. The things that you look at is going to change. And then eventually you're going to get informed about the things that you really want to do. And then when you get informed about the things that you want to do, then you're able to make better decisions. You feel a lot more comfortable in the decisions that you make going forward, right? So that's tip number 3.
Let's go. When this money we partying, pick it up. Too many bottles we bodying. It ain't enough. Give me the check, I give them the plastic. Don't gotta flex, I know what you asking. You need a lift, you look like you crashing. Here it come, what's in my cup?
Alright guys, so there you go. 3 powerful tips that if you really take them to heart, they will help you in 2022, right? changing your mindset, making sure that you get informed. And then when you get informed, you're going to be able to make better decisions in terms of what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. But you got to do something, right? And I know that this year coming up in 2022 is going to be a great year for everyone, right? You're going to be able to reach your full potential, right? And even if you're not reaching your full potential, but at least you're attempting to. And this is something that you have to do every single day. This is what I'm trying to do every single day, is I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And I encourage each and every one of you to do the same thing. All right, so if you've made it to the end, right, because I'm gonna leave it here. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate you guys. Please, if you like the video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and we're gonna make it happen, man. We're gonna make it happen. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, let's get it.